Julia Roberts sat at the view table Tuesday morning, her megawatt smile lighting up the studio as she promoted her new Netflix drama about climate activists. The interview had started warmly, with the host gushing over her latest performance and her decades-long career. For 15 minutes, it was standard celebrity fare, pleasant anecdotes, mutual compliments, and gentle promotion. Whoopi had just finished praising Julia's environmental activism when Joy Behar decided to steer the conversation differently. She said, "Julia, you've been very vocal about climate change, which is great. But don't you think it's a bit hypocritical flying private jets while preaching about carbon footprints?" Julia's smile tightened slightly. She said, "Well, Joy, I try to offset my carbon emissions and make conscious choices where I can. None of us are perfect, but we do our best." Joy pressed on, that familiar smirk playing at her lips. She said, "But isn't that just rich people buying their way out of guilt? You have multiple homes, you travel constantly, your lifestyle probably has the carbon footprint of a small country." The atmosphere shifted. The other host sensed danger. Julia maintained her composure. She said, "I think we all have to balance our lives with our values. I use my platform to raise awareness and fund renewable energy projects." "Platform?" Joy interrupted with a laugh. "That's what celebrities always say. I use my platform. But what you really do is lecture regular people about their SUVs while you fly to Cannes." Sunny Hostin tried to intervene. She said, "Joy, I think Julia's activism has brought important attention." "Has it?" Joy continued, clearly enjoying herself. "Or has it just made rich liberals feel better about themselves? It's easy to be an activist when you're worth hundreds of millions." Julia's famous composure began cracking. She said, "Joy, I don't think you understand the work I actually do." "Oh, I understand," Joy shot back. "You make movies about saving the planet, then go home to your compound that uses more electricity than my entire neighborhood. That's not activism. That's performance art." Sarah Haynes weakly offered, "Maybe we should talk about the film." But Julia had straightened in her chair, her eyes flashing. She said, "You know what, Joy? You're right. I do have privileges. But at least I'm trying to use them for good. What do you use your platform for besides tearing people down?" The audience stirred. This wasn't the agreeable Julia Roberts they expected. Joy leaned forward, scenting blood. She said, "I use my platform for honesty. Something Hollywood could use more of. You all pretend to care about causes while living lives that contradict everything you preach." "Pretend." Julia's voice rose. "I've spent millions of my own money on environmental causes. I've lobbied Congress. I've changed my entire lifestyle. What have you done besides sit in this chair and judge everyone else?" Alyssa Farah Griffin attempted to mediate. She said, "I think both perspectives." "No." Julia cut her off. "There aren't two perspectives here. There's someone trying to help and someone trying to tear down anyone who tries. That's not perspective, that's just cruelty." Joy's voice turned nasty. She said, "Oh please, save the victim act. You're not some noble crusader. You're an actress who plays pretend for a living and thinks that makes your opinions matter more." Julia stood up abruptly. The audience gasped. She said, "You know what, Joy? You're absolutely right. I do play pretend for a living. But at least when I pretend, I'm creating something. When you pretend to be a journalist, you're just destroying." The table went silent. Even Whoopi looked shocked. Julia continued, her southern accent becoming more pronounced as her anger rose. "You sit here every single day, judging people you don't know, situations you don't understand, lives you couldn't begin to comprehend. And you call it a job." Joy stood too, defensive. She said, "I've been doing this for decades." "Decades of what?" Julia interrupted. "Decades of bitterness? Decades of tearing down anyone who dares to succeed? Decades of masking jealousy as journalism." She walked around the table, addressing the audience. "You want to know why I really care about the environment? Because I have children. Because I've seen glaciers disappear. Because I've watched forests burn. And yes, I have resources to help, so I do. That's not hypocrisy. That's responsibility. What you're witnessing is the moment when Hollywood royalty refuses to play nice with daytime TV bullies. When someone who spent decades being gracious finally says enough. This is the clash between those who create and those who only criticize, and it's exactly the kind of truth mainstream media tries to edit out. Real moments like this show why unfiltered conversations matter. Joy tried to regain control. She said, "This is exactly what I mean. Celebrities think they're above criticism." Criticism? Julia laughed, but there was no humor in it. Joy, criticism would be discussing the effectiveness of carbon credits. What you do is character assassination. You didn't critique my environmental work. You called me a hypocrite and a fraud without knowing anything about what I actually do. She pulled out her phone. "You want to see hypocrisy? Here's you, Joy, bragging about your vacation homes. Here's you talking about your shopping sprees. Here's you mocking climate activists just last month. But I'm the hypocrite." Whoopi tried to intervene. She said, "Julia, let's all just take a breath." "No, Whoopi." Julia turned to her. "I've taken breaths for years. Every time I come on shows like this and smile, while people like Joy take cheap shots. Every time I pretend it's all in good fun when it's really just meanness disguised as entertainment." She looked back at Joy. "You want to know the difference between us? When I see someone trying to do good, I support them. When you see someone trying to do good, you look for ways to tear them down. That's not journalism. That's just sad." Joy's face was red. She said, "You can't handle being questioned." "Questioned?" Julia's voice rose to a level no one had heard before. "You didn't question me, Joy. You attacked me. You dismissed my work, mocked my efforts, and reduced years of activism to a punchline. That's not questioning. That's just being a bully." Security started moving closer to the stage. Julia noticed and laughed bitterly. She said, "Oh, perfect. Call security on Julia Roberts. Because God forbid someone stands up to the great Joy Behar. God forbid someone calls out the toxic culture of this show." She addressed the other hosts. "How do you all sit here every day and enable this? How do you watch her tear down guest after guest and call a conversation? Are the paychecks really worth your souls?" Sunny tried to respond. She said, "Julia, that's not fair." "Fair?" Julia spun on her. "Was it fair when Joy called me a hypocrite? Was it fair when she dismissed my life's work? Was it fair when she turned my environmental activism into a comedy routine? Where was your concern for fairness then?" She gathered her things, hands shaking with anger. "You know what? I'm done. I'm done pretending this is normal. I'm done smiling while bitter people try to diminish anyone who actually does something with their life." As she headed for the exit, Joy shouted, "Running away when it gets tough. Typical Hollywood." Julia stopped and turned back one last time. "You know what's typical, Joy? A woman who's contributed nothing to the world spending decades criticizing those who have. A person so consumed with cynicism they can't recognize sincerity anymore. A talk show host who mistakes cruelty for cleverness." She looked directly at the camera. "To everyone watching who's ever tried to make a difference and been mocked for it, who's ever attempted something meaningful and been called a hypocrite by people doing nothing, keep going. The Joy Behars of the world will always exist, sitting on the sidelines, throwing stones at anyone actually in the arena." Her final words rang out. "I'd rather be an imperfect person trying to help than a perfect cynic helping no one. And if that makes me a Hollywood hypocrite in Joy's eyes, I'll wear that label with pride." She walked off to thunderous applause from half the audience. The show never recovered. They cut to commercial immediately, and when they returned, Joy was gone. The remaining hosts struggled through one segment before ending early. Within minutes, hashtag Julia Roberts was right exploded across social media. The clip garnered 500 million views in 24 hours. Celebrities rallied to Julia's defense. Even those who rarely engaged in controversy felt compelled to speak. Leonardo DiCaprio tweeted, "I've faced the same attacks for my environmental work. Julia Roberts showed more grace than I would have. The cynics contribute nothing but criticism." Meryl Streep posted, "Watched a colleague get attacked for trying to save the planet." The real question is, what has Joy Behar done for any cause, ever? The backlash against The View was severe. Environmental organizations condemned the show. Sponsors pulled out. The network faced pressure to address the toxic culture. Joy tried to defend herself the next day, but her solo segment fell flat. Without someone to attack, she seemed diminished, petty. Julia, meanwhile, posted a thoughtful Instagram message. I lost my temper yesterday, but I won't apologize for defending work that matters. We face a climate crisis. We need everyone doing whatever they can, however imperfect. The cynics who do nothing but criticize those trying to help are part of the problem. She ended with, to Joy Behar, I hope someday you find something you care about more than tearing others down. The world needs builders, not just demolition experts. The incident sparked a broader conversation about cynicism in media, about how those who try to make a difference are often mocked by those who don't. Months later, at an environmental summit, Julia addressed the incident. That moment on The View crystallized something for me. The biggest obstacle to progress isn't those who oppose it. It's those who mock anyone who tries. Joy Behar represents that cynicism. But cynicism is just cowardice dressed up as wisdom. The revolution wasn't planned. It wasn't scripted. It was just a woman who'd spent decades being gracious finally running out of patience for graceless people. It was proof that sometimes the most powerful statement is refusing to smile through disrespect. Even from America's sweetheart. Especially from America's sweetheart. Because when Julia Roberts stops smiling, you know something's seriously wrong.